In the late 1960s, a new identity was established, promoting peace, criticizing consumerism, and celebrating individualism. Why was the hippie culture movement considered a significant turning point in history? This groundbreaking period not only sparked social reforms, but also revolutionized pop culture, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to influence our modern day. Join us as we explore the enigmatic journey of a generation that embraced an unconventional lifestyle. How can you spot a hippie from a mile away? Hippies could be clearly identified from a distance because of their loose, vibrantly colored clothing. Their long hair, handcrafted jewelry, and preference for going barefoot or wearing sandals gave them a distinct countercultural character. What stood out the most among the criticism and negative portrayals in the media? It was the flowers, decorating their cars, stitched into their clothes, and distributed freely. What is the core concept behind the movement? Taking the societal rules of the 1960s in a peaceful way, these flowers were the movement's symbol of that classy disobedience. The counterculture movement began in the 1960s when a new generation dared to challenge the social and political norms of the time. These young trailblazers altered the course of history by fighting for civil rights, rejecting materialism, and protesting against U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. The hippie movement originated within the counterculture, first on American college campuses and quickly spreading throughout the world. A group of youngsters, mostly in their teens and from the middle class, decided to give up their jobs and careers. They joined this revolutionary organization, choosing to disconnect themselves from society. The hippie movement emerged during the Vietnam War as a powerful subculture that dared to defy the accepted norms of society. The younger generation demonstrated a clear deviation from the views of their parents. They adopted an alternative lifestyle characterized by the principles of love, peace, and freedom. This difference resulted in a unified opposition to the Vietnam War and a broad rejection of conventional values. They participated in large-scale protests, using art, music, and chanting to express their disapproval. This approach effectively brought attention to the problems associated with U.S. involvement in Southeast Asia. Their activism not only echoed their anti-war sentiments, but also encouraged others to take a stand against military conflict. What kind of lifestyle did they lead? Were they living life in the fast lane and dancing to a completely different beat? Hippies adopted a communal way of life, living in shared houses and eating vegetarian and unprocessed cuisine such as lentils, tofu, and flavors from Asia and Eastern Europe. Their fondness for avocado and sprouts on soy bread led to the creation of avocado toast, which became their staple diet. In addition to their dietary choices, they cherished handcrafted goods and developed a distinct style. The tie-dye craze took over as they turned their outfits into a rainbow of hues and patterns. Fashion-wise, bell-bottom pants, tie-dye shirts, and flowy skirts are still the symbols of the original hippie look, and they are the base of today's hipster outfit. The females matched peasant blouses with jeans, granny skirts, and dresses, and adorned their hair with flowing ribbons. Completing their look, they walk in with beaded jewelry and sandals, turning heads wherever they go. Men with their long hair and beards preferred cotton or tie-dyed shirts and accessorized themselves with sandals and beads. The majority of their outfits were either handmade or found at flea markets. There was a cool connection between hippies and music festivals. Would you like an illustration of that? The mind-blowing gathering of over 500,000 people at the legendary Woodstock Festival. It's not just a crowd, it's a wild demonstration of how the hippie movement shook things up. Hippie culture was strongly united by music, which went from simple amusement to becoming a spiritual and emotional medium of self-expression. They frequently organized music festivals and get-togethers, and the most famous of these was the Woodstock Festival. This historic event took place over 3 days, from August 15 to 18, 1969, and attracted an incredible crowd. It was initially scheduled for 50,000 people, but the organizers quickly learned that they would be hosting a far larger gathering. A dairy farm in Bethel, New York, was the location of this festival, and young people from different places came together to celebrate. Residents of Bethel resisted the festival. However, after some serious talks with the town attorney, the organizers managed to obtain the permit, even if it took a bit longer than expected. Preparations were rushed due to venue approval delays. The fence and security measures were not in place before the attendees started arriving, many on foot, with or without tickets. The festival, which included 32 bands over 3 days, was a success, despite rain, crowd control challenges, and the growing worry of the town's residents. The well-known performers and bands graced the stage, including Richie Havens, Crosby, Sweetwater, Blood, Sweat and Tears, and many more. Hippie music, which combined tradition and experimentation, created classic records and timeless hits that have stood the test of time. The hippie music style was like a fun mashup, blending in electronic gadgets, sound effects, and even cassettes. This genre not only laid the foundation for popular styles like electronica and ambient music, but also showcased the cultural and musical diversity of the hippie era. Records from this era are still highly regarded for their creativity and lasting influence. The White Album by the Beatles in 1968 and the Jimi Hendrix Experience's Axis Bold as Love in 1967 are iconic landmarks in the musical landscape of the 1960s. One popular song that perfectly sums up the counterculture movement is San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair. Penned by John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, and performed by Scott McKenzie, it became an instant hit. This song, released to support the Monterey International Pop Music Festival in San Francisco, is regarded as the classic anthem of the counterculture movement. It skyrocketed to fame in the blink of an eye, winning hearts both domestically and abroad. In search of alternative routes to enlightenment, hippies immersed themselves in Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and Taoism. Hipsters of today who participate in yoga and meditation retreats continue the search. Let's now address the less positive aspects of the hippie movement. Why did many people oppose the hippie movement? The movement's promotion of free love resulted in an increase in adolescent pregnancies, STD occurrences, and incidents of rape. Women replaced money as the new kind of currency, and this idea of free love seemed to feed a perverted mindset among certain hippie men. Drugs were a significant issue as well, with substances like marijuana and LSD being used to achieve a supposed higher state of consciousness. The infamous Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco serves as an accurate example of how drugs negatively impacted the movement. This was especially evident during the summer of 1967, known as the Summer of Love. In Haight-Ashbury, more than 100,000 people gathered in search of communal life that promised freedom of expression and liberation from oppression. But the high drug use contributed to numerous overdose incidents and a rise in crime. It had changed from being a haven for artists and freethinkers to a dirty and filthy neighborhood, where insecurity and crime were on the rise. Many of the young people who came in search of free love and freedom returned home sick and penniless. Famous hippie David Crosby recently acknowledged to the Times magazine, "I think we were right about everything except the drugs." He believed that the hippie movement was right on human rights, civil rights, and the preference for peace over conflict. What do you think? Leave your opinion in the comments. The hippie movement has undoubtedly promoted important social changes, regardless of the negative implications associated with it. The opposition to popular culture served as a catalyst for other movements, notably the advancement of civil rights and women's rights. Though they were mocked as tree huggers, hippies left a lasting mark on the pro-environment movement. These cool hippies played a pivotal role in the establishment of Earth Day in 1970. Their legacy is set in stone, and the evergreen influence will continue to leave its mark on the world. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and click the subscribe button for more videos like this one.